Good evening once again. Welcome to the Monday Review Show. Every Monday, 8 p.m., we discuss things of refereeing nature strictly. I just want to point out, as I do regularly, that we do not, and I mean Keith and myself, we do not come on this show or create this show or use this show to criticize referees. Having been there, we know what it's all about. But we know that you, the viewer, like to know the reasons why referees make decisions that they make. And that's our sole purpose, not only this evening, but every evening, every Monday. We go out on Facebook. We also go out on YouTube. If you'd like to send in your comments and your questions, by all means, you can do so right on the bottom of your screen. You can just swipe across and put in your comments there. There is a little space for those. Now, the thing, it's just never off the agenda, this one particular issue, and it keeps cropping up time and time and time again. And that's the whole issue of VAR. Now, you must be sick and tired of it at this point in time, as Keith and I are in some ways. Can't believe that it's just dragging on. Every week there's a controversy, to the extent now that the Swedes, the FA in Sweden, have decided by their clubs that they want rid of VAR and they're not going to use it anymore. It's now transpired that in England, in the Premier League, that one particular Premier League team, Wolverhampton Wanderers, have now put in a motion to be discussed next month as to whether VAR should be abandoned in the UK, in England as well. Now, for it to be taken out and not banned is not the right word, but removed, 14 of the 20 clubs have to agree for it to be removed, as it was in Sweden. So Keith and I are going to talk about that and the alternative that FIFA have come up with. Believe it or not, you laugh your head off when you hear the alternative, but we'll tell you about that in a moment. So Keith, what's the possibility? VAR in the Premier League gone?
Well, I think that on the face of it, I think Wolverhampton Wanderers, the club that's made the motion, have put up a very strong case, and I want to read out their view on VAR, why they consider that VAR should be scrapped. First of all, they are worried about the impact on goal celebrations and the spontaneous passion that makes football special. They're saying clearly it's impacting on goal celebrations. Second, frustration and confusion inside stadiums due to lengthy VAR checks and poor communication. It's creating a more hostile atmosphere with protests and the booing of the Premier League anthem and chants against VAR and beginning to be seen in stadiums. Overreach of VAR's original purpose to correct clear and obvious mistakes. We're now seeing over-analysing subjective decisions and compromising the game's fluidity and integrity. Diminished accountability of the on-field officials due to the safety net of VAR leading to an erosion of authority on the pitch. Continued errors despite VAR, with supporters unable to accept human error after multiple views and replays. It's damaging the confidence in official standards. Disruption of the Premier League fast pace with lengthy VAR checks and more at a time, causing matches to run exceedingly long. Constant discourse about VAR decisions, often overshadowing the match itself and tarnishing the reputation of the league. And finally, the erosion of trust and reputation, with VAR fueling completely nonsensical allegations of corruption. So they put up a substantial case. Now, where do I think this will end? I don't think they'll get the majority to actually overturn this. But my view is this. It's a wake-up call again for the Premier League. We're in the 5th year of its operation. We got off to a very bad start. The first year was 1 year after the MLS had already been running it in their competition. So we introduced it, and Mike Riley and his cohorts decided that they'd have the monitors at the side of the pitch, but they never used them. They began to come under media pressure. People like myself were saying, well, if you've got the monitors, surely that's part of the process, and the referee needs to review. So in year 2, they came out with a statement that VAR would be used sparingly. And I can tell you, factually, that in 380 games in that second season, monitor was viewed 3 times. So in the second year, what we've seen now is, where Nottingham Forest were coming from, where they had the claim for 3 penalty kicks. I think 2 out of the 3 were justified. I think it was a handball. And the third one, which is where Anthony Taylor, appearing in a good position, and a challenge came in, did the shape of the ball to indicate the ball had been played. When you saw that replay, and I'm not being clever here, and I'm just actually saying the replay for me, when it was played, could clearly see that the ball hadn't been played, and it was a clear and easy foul.
So just on that, Keith, now, I mean, what did Anthony Taylor see? I mean, he did the shape of the ball. What did he see that you didn't see?
We know in refereeing that to see, recognise, think and act is the process. And I've analysed, as I've said before, thousands of errors made by referees, sadly, when boss of the Premier League.
Yeah.
When you actually really analyse with all the cameras that's available and a piece of software that can show the angle, invariably the referee's not seeing the decision. And this is why I was a strong supporter of VAR. I'm saying the producer and the commentator has the ability to look at a decision 5 or 6 times. The referee only has 1 chance. Let's bring in VAR and give him a second chance of seeing this incident. Clearly, Anthony Taylor saw what he saw, but there was an element of guessing it. There had to be, because the player didn't play the ball. The player fouled his opponent. So the VAR didn't come in. And you go, why not? Because this is a clear and obvious error. The outcome was a major error, no question. And Howard Webb in his mic'd up show confirmed rather reluctantly that was a match officiating error. So
could Anthony Taylor have said, okay, if it's a clear and obvious error, he might say, no, I didn't make an error. I made a decision.
He can. But I think that then what we get, and this is the type of analysis, then what we have is we say, well, just a minute, we brought in VAR. Now we know that in the game, we can argue subjective decisions.
Yeah.
This was a foul. This was basic law. This wasn't and didn't need a top-class referee to distinguish between an action of fairness and a foul. This was a foul. And I'm not being clever.
Yeah, so I'm just playing devil's advocate.
No, carry on.
The fans will say, so where's the consistency? You've got one former ex-FIFA and World Cup refereeing who's saying yes, and you've got a current FIFA and World Cup referee, I don't know if he's been to the World Cup, saying no. So, and they will say, well, if referees are disagreeing, how in heaven's name ever are we going to get consistency?
Well, I think the only way you can get consistency, and I'm clear, and I've said it for a number of years now. I think, first of all, I worry about the relationship, not the integrity, the relationship between what is regarded as our number one or number two referee in the competition, Anthony Taylor. No doubt he's a very good referee, right? He's made a judgment, and you've got a VAR who's, he's a FIFA official, but he's subordinate to Anthony Taylor in experience and relationship, and he's probably thinking to himself, do I really want to come in on here? You know, and therefore they create this element of doubt in the process. So the answer for me is, I believe that the VAR, that's the role they should have. That's all. You know, when we consider VAR at the World Cup, which was successful, the VARs are appointed as VARs. They're not there as assistants, as referees. They go to the World Cup or they go to the Euros, and they sit in a room, believe me, in the months leading up, and in the case of FIFA, in the years leading up to the competition, they go through serious training, serious examination. You know, I know it, I think at the last World Cup, the referees were actually doing shuttle runs and then going to a screen as the VAR and making a decision. So I think preparation is where part of the success has been in the World Cup and in Europe. The second point is they're really specializing in that area of VAR. And I think that would then perhaps ease that relationship problem, so that all we want the VAR to do is to have that delayed transmission that says is miss one. And I think the instruction on clear and obvious is it should hit you on your nose. I don't think, you know, if there's an element of grey, or I'm going to have another 5 looks at a screen, then every time that second finger goes click, 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 credibility is being lost. So I think, you know, I think we've got to accept in refereeing and in football, just like the players that miss open goals, referees will make mistakes. We're not going to sanitize the game. Therefore, it really is in the hands of Howard Webb to make certain that the leadership he gives, the training that he gives, and the accountability is in place. As an example, Roberto Rossetti this week or last week announced only the captains will be allowed to talk to the referee in the Euros. Now, we all take a skeptic view about that. The reality is, right, my first question then was, well, if that's the case, what if, as we see in the Premier League, the captain of the team is the goalkeeper? How are we going to do that? They'd already answered it. They'd already said, if the captain of the team is a goalkeeper, a nominated player will be announced to the referee prior to kickoff that he is the link person. So the one thing about UEFA is that, and whilst we agree or disagree on that, on what the principle of what they're trying to do, I know that referees will be instructed that if they do not carry the instruction out, they will be sent home on the plane. And that's how UEFA operate. That's how Kalina operates with the referees at the World Cup. You don't apply their very clear instructions, then away you go.
Can you see it happening, Keith? Can you see the players behaving themselves and the captain saying, I think Rossetti also mentioned that they were talking about this 3 strikes or 2 strikes and you're out. You get 2 chances to challenge a decision. If you win, you retain your, similar to cricket, you retain your challenges, and if you lose, you lose. Can you see that happening? Supposing, for example, let me just throw another spanner in the works here. Supposing the 2 challenges come in the first 10 minutes, and they lose both. They now have no further challenges. Can you see them not challenging? I can't see that happening in football.
No, I think that is this new. It seems to me that football is uncomfortable with VAR. Around the world,
except when it's in their favor.
Correct.
Our teams, you're talking about football, but certainly with teams.
Yes, but I think that what you've got is FIFA are beginning to recognise that, first of all, the system that is operated, it as currently operated, is costing a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's costing a lot of money, and I think that this is why they're saying, with the new system that they're proposing, not a change, one that they've been experimenting with. What they're saying there is there'll be no VAR. There will not be a VAR operator. You'll not have a referee in another room looking at the screen. So I'm the manager of England, and I see a Maradona handball. I want to then raise a card, do this with my hands, raise a coloured card to indicate that I want to challenge that situation. What then happens is the referee goes to a screen and the video operator is set up the replays. The referee makes the decision.
So this is this new FVS instead of VAR. This FVS means football video support.
Yes.
Is that going to replace, you think, or go alongside VAR, or will VAR finally be scrapped and they'll bring in this FVS instead?
What we've got is, I think, when I talk about 5 years of confusion, there are people in the game that wanted VAR and have seen the points, many of the points raised by Wolverhampton Wanderers. Even myself have questioned the time it takes, the impact on the game, the impact on goals being scored and the celebration. The biggest one is the lack of communication with the fan inside the stadium. It's like going out and buying a record and you get home and you start playing it and there's no music coming out. It's as bad as that if you're in the stadium. You don't know what's going on. The demographics of people who are visiting stadiums now to watch football matches are not the old fag packet and flat cap. And I'm not being derogatory because my dad was in that category and I used to go to games with him. What it is the more sophisticated, wealthier, better placed, more informed, social media coming into that mix. And as a result, I think there's no question that VAR is eroding the status of the referee and turning the referee at times into a laughingstock. You and I do not like criticizing match officials. We spent so much time educating and improving refereeing standards. But the reality is, we're seeing what I consider to be normal, relatively easy decisions being missed, and VAR not helping to rectify them because of a poor communication system that's in place and a relationship psychological problem. You know, years ago, Nigel Owens talked to me about a safety net. I smile when I read Wolves because they talk about a safety net. What I have seen, which is, and I've worked with some of these guys that are current referees. They're good referees. They're good. They might have an off game, just like Haaland doesn't score every week. But what it is it's affecting them in a negative manner in two ways. I don't know how a referee can actually officiate a game with somebody blaring in their ear doing a running commentary. That's the first point. I think it's confusing. It's unhelpful. The second point is it's leading to hesitation in our referees. It's leading to that hesitation. And then something that comes into the mix, which is outside VAR, is the actual selection of referees. I still feel, and I'm not putting into question the integrity of referees, but I do feel, you know, for example, if England are playing Italy in the Euros, you will not have an English referee refereeing that game. You may not even have a Scottish, Irish, or Welsh referee refereeing that game. So why do we have a Greater Manchester referee based in Greater Manchester refereeing Manchester clubs? Why do we get ourselves into that position? Why do we allow Nottingham Forest to make a genuine claim well before the game that they're worried that one of the officials supports a team that's in a relegation battle with Nottingham Forest? I don't, you know, the leadership, the direction, the management of the PGMOL should not leave itself open to that level of criticism. No. Then the final thing is this. Do not try to pull the wool over the eyes of fans. Just come on and say, I've looked at this, we'll play through it. Anthony Taylor's got whilst his proximity to play is good, his viewing angle is impaired. From his viewing angle, he believes the ball has been played. Now we look at the replay, and I have to say, as the boss of the PGMOL, the VAR should have come in. That was a foul. A penalty should have been awarded. It's an error. Move on.
Yeah. The perception is always there, since we're talking about Anthony Taylor, but any referee who lives in close proximity to a particular team that is refereeing against a team that's 300 miles away, that perception is there. We know referees are decent, honest people. We know that they're doing the best they can based on what they see, and they're not biased. Yes, correct. There are one or two, and we'll just mention one as we come to the end of the program, but generally, these guys, I once red carded my brother-in-law in a match, and we know that there are guys who will do that and referee objectively to the best of their ability. But still, the perception is there in the eyes of the fans and some of the teams.
And let me say this about Anthony Taylor: I would not have appointed him in that role, but let me tell you this: that when Anthony Taylor has refereed Manchester City and Manchester United, he's been very, very good. He's not. There's no question. His integrity has not been into question in those situations. The point that I want to make is this. If it does go pear-shaped, and it did go pear-shaped, right, the family of that referee are potentially coming under pressure.
Absolutely.
That's my concern, not the ability of Anthony Taylor, who is an outstanding referee.
Mm-hmm. And on that, referees being biased and so on, you, like many people and myself, have read recently where a Dutch referee in a lower league game was seen celebrating with the winning team, having red carded 3 players of the opposition. Now, thankfully, and I do say thankfully, he's been banned for life of ever refereeing another game at that sort of level. I don't know if he'll be used at lower levels, but he's been banned. That's absolutely disgusting, Keith. That's really
I couldn't believe it. I thought that it was April 1st come early or late. Yeah. I think what is so important in refereeing, even at grassroots level, is to be completely impartial and act in a professional manner.
Yeah.
I think all too often we want to be over friendly. The reality is,
I can't believe how English officials, particularly assistant referees, when a sub is gone, they want to engage them in a conversation. Yeah. And the player has no interest in engaging an assistant referee in a conversation. Why do they do it?
I think it's interesting because I watched a game in Mexico City, and the referee was, he had a good game, don't get me wrong. I just thought, like, his lack of communication was just not there. From a body language signal point of view, it's very clear.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking there was a good chance there to do some proactive management of the players. And I said to a colleague who was watching a Mexican international referee, and I said to him, do you know this referee would really improve if he improved his communication with players? And he turned and said, Keith, in Mexico, we're not allowed to talk to the players. The players are not allowed to talk to us.
100%. I agree with that. Absolutely. And this hypocritical handshaking at the start of the game, and the game is no longer kicked off, and you're being lambasted and harangued and abused. But yet, I would stop all that nonsense. Yeah. I really would.
So now what we've got is that the Euros in June, as listeners to this program, I'm pre-warning you about this arrangement where the captain of the team is the only person that communicate with the referee. And what we are going to now see is how that impacts on the game and on the referee.
Mm-hmm.
Because whilst most referees in Europe I think all the referees in Europe will have a reasonable command of English, that's not always true of the players. Yeah. So again, the captain has got to speak fairly fluent English, and the communication from the referee's got to be pretty firm. Now, the thing I want you to look at is, at what point should the referee have issued a yellow card to the captain for dissent? Watch this space.
We'll watch this space. We'll watch this space. Keith, as always, many thanks for your time and on the show. It's really, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. I really
Pleasure.
do. Thank you very much. For you, the watchers out there, we're going to take a break. There'll be no more Monday Review show now until the 17th of June, a couple of weeks' time, when the Euros will already have kicked off, and I'm sure there'll be incidents. But the leagues have all finished. So it makes our show, if you like, a little bit redundant. But you can continue commenting and sending in your questions and so on the Hanging Judge, on Facebook.com/Hanging Judge Ref. Thanks again, Keith, to you. And many thanks to all of you people out there for watching throughout the year. We'll be back on the 17th of June, in a couple of weeks' time, for the Euros. Till then, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.